From the dusty, arid ruins of Mycenae to the fog-shrouded monoliths of Meteora, International Video Network welcomes you on this video visits tour of Greece, playground of the gods. Above the moonlit Parthenon, the spirits of Athena, Zeus, Apollo, and Aphrodite still dance in the Athens night, sharing their glorious past with the bustling metropolis below. Sun-drenched islands with whitewashed houses, vineyards clinging to barren hillsides, gnarled olive trees reaching for the sun. The ruins of ancient cultures all beckon the adventurous wayfarer. Today, wayfarers abound, and tourism has become the mainstay of the Greek economy, with travelers arriving from all parts of the world. Tourism accounts for more than $4 billion in annual revenue. In fact, Greece caters to more than 8 million visitors each year, a number that nearly equals the entire Greek population, and in the summer months has this small nation bursting at its borders. The lines of Greece were drawn in ancient times, a time when the fathers of modern civilization, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, were contemplating the politics of democracy, designing the ethics and principles of human rights that continue to challenge mankind. Greece was then and continues to be a small nation, bordered on 3 sides by water and dotted with islands. The climate is characterized by cool, temperate winters and long summers under an often blistering sun. The islands to the west of mainland Greece are surrounded by the Ionian Sea. The islands to the east and south lie in the famed Aegean. The largest landmass adjoining the mainland is the Peloponnese Peninsula, bordered on all sides by water except for the tiny isthmus at Corinth, connecting it to the mainland. Though each island and sea has its own identity, all of Greece is considered Mediterranean. Though considered part of Europe and a member of the European Economic Community, Greece is located on Europe's eastern edge, almost directly north of Egypt. It is landlocked to the north by Albania, Yugoslavia, and Bulgaria, and is a ferry ride away from Italy to the west and Turkey to the east. To a visitor, Greece seems to share much with its neighbors, caught somewhere in the mix of cultures common to the countries bordering the Mediterranean. To many, Athens is the heart of Greece. And while the beauty of the countryside and the magic of the islands inspire an uncommon awe among visitors, it is Athens, night and day, that sets the pulse of this great nation. Athens is considered the most cosmopolitan city in Greece, and is certainly one of the most lively in all of Europe.
I feel proud to live in Athens because it's a city that has everything. Whatever you can imagine, from entertainment to anything, and everything.
I like Athens very much. In Athens, you can live any way you want. You can have an exciting life or a quiet life. Athens has everything.
Athens is very beautiful. It's the best city in Europe. It's very beautiful and it welcomes visitors with great enthusiasm. And the people are exceptional. I'd say the best people in Europe.
Athens is among the most beautiful capitals. It reflects the ancient civilization and its museums and ruins. And it has the parks and beautiful buildings and activities. It's among one of the most beautiful capitals.
A carefree attitude pervades in Athens even with the stifling difficulties of city life. People work hard and play hard, often relaxing for hours in one of the numerous outdoor cafes. In fact, Kolonaki and the Plaka seethe with life during most hours of the day. Kolonaki, a neighborhood near the foot of Lycavatos Hill, is best known as a hangout for upscale locals with a taste for continental clothes and cuisine. The young at heart can be found here on most summer evenings, enjoying conversation among friends and sipping the notorious Greek coffee.
Είναι και αυτός μία από τις συνήθειες του Έλληνα.
Coffee is one of the habits of Greek people. Instead of loading your stomach down with orange sodas and things, you have a little Greek coffee. It's like espresso.
You sit around and joke with friends. Your character is revealed while drinking coffee.
Usually, we go for coffee and sit and talk. The hour of coffee is a time of conversation.
The Plaka, located near the north side of the Acropolis, is a colorful maze of restored 19th century buildings. The narrow streets provide a fun promenade lined with shops, outdoor cafes, and spirited tavernas and discos. The Plaka is one of the best places in all of Greece for genuine mingling among the locals and their foreign visitors. Every visit to Athens should include a stop in front of the Parliament building on Constitution Square. A ceremonial changing of the guard occurs on the hour. The grim, humorless faces of the young guards seem a strange contrast to their colorful uniforms and clogs as they pass before the marble tomb of the unknown soldier. On most days, tourists dominate the square. But this small area surrounded by Parliament and the famous Grand Breton Hotel is of great importance to the Greek people as the center of Greek democracy. Many Greeks have died here in defense of their political beliefs. The National Gardens are also a frequent stop for visitors and Athenians in search of a green oasis. Located near Constitution Square, the gardens have become a meeting place for the animated exchange of political philosophy. For a catnap, a little romance, or a thoughtful stroll among the cool shade trees. Far from the relaxed mood of the gardens, much of Athens is a maze of traffic, one-way streets, exhaust fumes, and honking horns, as more than 900,000 cars and buses attempt to get from point A to point B in a city designed by the ancients. It's considered one of Europe's most difficult cities in which to drive.
It's very difficult to drive in Athens. There's a lot of traffic. The easiest is a motorcycle. I prefer a motorcycle. Oh, the traffic is dramatic. The conditions are crazy. You leave your house and you come home a nervous wreck.
The skyline of Athens is a mosaic of bleak, mid-level, high-rise apartment and office buildings. Yet from nearly any vantage point, the beautiful remains of the Acropolis can be seen rising majestically toward the sky. The Acropolis, a cluster of stone ruins from Greek antiquity situated atop a rocky limestone hillside, is perhaps the world's most famous monument to the past. The word Acropolis translates as the highest part of the city, and an acropolis is usually a defensible position. The Acropolis flourished in the 1,000 years before Christ, though its history dates back much further. Over time, the Acropolis was used primarily as a military fortress and as the sacred sanctuary of the virgin goddess Athena. But the sanctity of the Parthenon, Erechtheion, and adjoining temples has rarely been preserved by foreign invaders. Persian invaders attempted to burn the Acropolis around 480 BC, but perhaps the most serious damage to the Parthenon came in 1687 AD, when the invading Venetian army landed an artillery blow to the Parthenon during a raging battle with the Turks. It was at the time being used to store gunpowder, and the resulting explosion proved devastating. No other building better exemplifies the glories of the golden age of Greece. However, the Parthenon is in trouble. The imposing Doric columns and decorative sculpture are suffering the ravages of air pollution and acid rain. Scaffolding has been in place for years as archaeologists and historians attempt to preserve what remains. In addition to the magnificent Parthenon, several other ruins of the Acropolis are historically important. The entire western front of the summit is adorned by one of the great remaining examples of classical architecture, the Propylaea, entrance to the Acropolis. It was commissioned by Pericles in 438 BC. The entire structure of white Pentelic marble was completed in under 5 years. To the right of the Propylaea is the small temple of Nike. It's in relatively good shape today, its 8 Ionic columns somehow surviving years of destructive influences. The Erechtheion is undoubtedly the most impressive example of Ionic architecture existing in the world today. An extensive restoration of the Erechtheion was completed in the late 1980s. During that time, the remaining 5 caryatids, or stone maidens, of the southern portico were replaced by cement-cast replicas. 5 of the 6 originals now reside in climate-controlled confines within the Acropolis Museum, while the 6th remains at the British Museum in London. The Acropolis has long been the hub of activity in Athens, including cultural performances of music and drama. The Theater of Dionysus, built in the 6th century BC, is in ruins along the southern slope of the Acropolis. However, the Odeon of Herodes Atticus, located just a few hundred meters to the west of the Theater of Dionysus, is in remarkably good condition. The Odeon seats more than 5,000 people on stone benches that circle the natural amphitheater. It remains a vital venue for concerts and performances of ancient Greek drama. Located along the southeastern coast of the Greek mainland, Athens has long been the shipping hub of Greece. The Athens port is located at Piraeus, about 12 kilometers from central Athens. Cruise ships and car ferries make routine shuttles to the islands, while freighters from around the world embark from and descend upon the port during all hours of the day.
I prefer the rural life rather than the urban life. Here we have fresh air, and you work for yourself. I like to be independent. I like the work of a farmer.
Along with tourism and shipping, the Greek economy is still heavily invested in agriculture. Olive groves, both vast and small, dot the mountainous terrain throughout Greece, often sharing the hillsides with vineyards, tobacco, fruit, and grain. About 20% of the Greek people are employed in some kind of farming, though the difficulties of working the land and battling the temperamental climate have driven many Greeks to the city. Nearly half of the Greek population of 10 million people now live in the two major cities, Athens and Salonika. Although the availability of jobs and the international appeal of Athens have drawn many Greeks, Salonika, the second largest city in Greece, has plenty to offer in lifestyle, culture, and standard of living. Salonika, located on the Gulf of Thermikos in the northeast corner of Greece, is home to about 1 million people. The city is not as congested as Athens, though it still employs many in shipping and industry. Its history goes back only 2,300 years, making Salonika relatively young by Greek standards. Yet the city's history is a rich one. Perhaps most notable was the reign of Alexander the Great, who from nearby Pella ruled an expansive civilization during the 4th century BC. In just 10 years, Alexander extended the Greek influence from Egypt to the foothills of the Himalayan mountains. The ruins of Hellenistic fortress walls that once surrounded the hillsides are now part of the urban landscape, tucked between apartment buildings and parks. And the famous White Tower, a local landmark built during Turkish occupation, can be seen from most points of the harbor walk. While Athens and the islands cater to visitors from around the globe, Salonika is truly a working-class town, whose vacationers come largely from nearby Yugoslavia and Bulgaria. Accommodations are excellent, and it's a fun, accessible city where it's easy to blend into the Greek lifestyle, on the walking malls or in the central marketplace, one of Europe's finest. Salonika has long been the center of Christianity in Greece. Its Christian tradition is due largely to the visits of St. Paul. For many years after the 7th century, Salonika was known as the second city of the Byzantine Empire, important as both a commercial and spiritual center. The ruins of Byzantine churches are abundant throughout the city. The Byzantine influence can be felt throughout Greece, most notably in the churches and monasteries. The ancient monastery of Kesariani lies hidden among the shade trees of Mount Hymettos near Athens. It's a well-preserved example of Byzantine architecture where it's easy to see how the monks lived and worshipped during the Byzantine era. The monks' cells are nearly intact on the fringes of a beautiful courtyard. Early parts of the church were built on a sanctuary of Aphrodite during the 11th century. The sanctuary also has many well-preserved frescoes lining the walls and dome, most of which date from the 16th and 17th centuries. Many of the monasteries of the Byzantine era were located in remote areas. Perhaps the best preserved of these monasteries is Osios Loukos. Although open to the public, the monastery remains relatively hidden from the encroachment of modern times. Osios Lukos is several kilometers off the main road, in the cradle of a mountainside, where the winds of time blow quietly off its red-tiled rooftops. A monastic center during the 14th century. At that time, the first monastery was built on a rock known as Platylithos by a monk named Athanasios. He called the rock Meteora, which means suspended in the air, because the finished monastery appeared to hang between heaven and earth. In the years that followed, many more monasteries were built in the secluded forest of stone, all of which became known as Meteora. They were easily defensible, reachable only across narrow bridges or by baskets carefully hoisted from below by a manual winch. Meteora's decline as a monastic center began in the 17th century. Though the ruins of more than 20 different monasteries can still be seen today, only 6 of the Byzantine structures remain in good condition, and 2 are still active as monasteries. Due in part to its remoteness, Meteora has outlasted development. It is visited by pilgrims from around the world, some seeking truth, some simply curious, but all with the respect for the integrity of Meteora. The secrets of the monks who lived here can be discovered in the spirit and solitude of this mystical sanctuary. The seeds of Christianity are also visible in the Peloponnese Peninsula, especially among the ruins of old Corinth. Corinth was among the places chosen by St. Paul from which to preach. But the real history of the Peloponnese begins with civilization itself. The ruins that dot the peninsula date back thousands of years. Entire cultures lived and died here long before Christ was born, and their stories are best told at Old Corinth, Epidaurus, Olympia, and Mycenae. Like much of Greece, the Peloponnese Peninsula consists of arid, mountainous terrain. But the peninsula is also a significant agricultural area. Farmers grow extensive dry weather crops ranging from potatoes to artichokes. The peninsula is also filled with vineyards. The annual harvest relies heavily on human power, with bushels of succulent grapes destined to become Greek wine. Though Greek wine has yet to reach the stature of French or California wines, it has become a major export to other members of the European Economic Community. The eastern part of the peninsula is known for natural springs and clean air, especially in the area around Epidaurus. The pinnacle of these ideal surroundings is the ancient theater of Epidaurus, built in the 4th century BC. It's the largest and most well-preserved of all ancient theaters in Greece. Built of stone into the natural contours of the hillside, the theater seats 14,000 spectators. But the most distinct aspect of the theater is its acoustic excellence. Even from the top of the theater, row 55, every word can be clearly heard from the performers in the half circle below.
In Athens, you don't know anybody. But here, in Ophlion, we all know each other. It's like one big family. It's wonderful.
The picturesque resort city of Nafplion is located about 28 kilometers southwest of Epidaurus on the coast of the Aegean. The incredible stone walls of the Palamidi fortress tower over the city, providing both an excellent military advantage and a terrific view. Along with Palamidi and the ancient Venetian fortress of Borgi, Nafplion is chiefly known as a retirement community for affluent Greeks. It's also a well-known short-stay vacation community for Athenians. Because of its proximity to Athens and its affordable luxury accommodations, numerous Greeks visit Nafplion each summer. Nafplion has a lively marketplace, and the city of 10,000 Greeks is woven with quaint Venetian architecture. About 100 kilometers due west of Nafplion, in the vast grove of the sacred Altis, is the ancient site of Olympia, famed home to the Panhellenic Games. Apollo, Heracles, Nero, the Olympic competition among men from Greece, Sicily, North Africa, and Asia Minor began in 776 BC and continued for nearly 1,200 years, all under the protection of a sacred truce. The games were conducted in honor of Zeus, who, according to ancient mythology, is said to have deposed Kronos at Olympia during the 10-year battle between the gods and the Titans. Kings, artists, sages, poets, and philosophers, Aristotle and Plato among them, were regular spectators at the games. competition became a noble tradition designed to strengthen the body and build superior character. The winner's honor was not valued in money, but in a braided crown molded from the branch of the sacred olive tree. The subtle cries of victory can still be heard, riding the soft breezes across the eroded spires of the Temple of Zeus. The Olympic Games were abolished in 393 AD at the decree of Theodosius the Great. Olympia was deserted. The famed Temple of Zeus, the Exedra of Herodaticus, the Temple of Hera, the Crypti, the Stadium, all were plundered by Christians in the 4th century, then abandoned to the forces of nature. The second of 2 earthquakes completed the destruction in 551 AD. More than 1,300 years passed before the curiosity of French and German archaeologists forced the process of excavation. The Temple of Zeus was uncovered by a French team in 1829, with some of the finds removed to a collection in the Louvre Museum in Paris. The first systematic excavations were begun by the German Archaeological Institute in 1875. Their research at Olympia continues today as archaeologists toil to reconstruct the history of the Olympic Games. Few Greek villages in the Peloponnese are without some ruin from the past, a stone foundation or dilapidated shrine to Apollo. But it is the deserted ruins of Olympia, Epidaurus, and Mycenae which hold the most power. Mycenae, located roughly equidistant from Corinth and Nafplion, is by far the oldest archaeological site on the peninsula, its glorious past dating back more than 3,000 years. Agamemnon, Clytemnestra, Orestes, Electra. The ancient ruins of the Acropolis of Mycenae still ring with their desperate voices. The Mycenaean culture thrived from roughly 1600 to 1100 BC. The Acropolis of Mycenae, by then abandoned, began a slow deterioration into ruin. The renowned German Heinrich Schliemann undertook excavation work here in 1840. Though best known for his archaeological pursuits, Schliemann's goal in searching out the Mycenaean ruins was to discover the truth behind the ancient Greek writings of Homer. Schliemann succeeded, and the treasures he uncovered can be seen today in the Mycenaean room of the Archaeological Museum in Athens. Today, beyond the famous Lion's Gate, the ruins of the palace and the royal graves lie tucked along the hillsides, their bleak brown stones blending as camouflage into the barren terrain. Once part of a grand empire, the Acropolis of Mycenae provided a tremendous view of the plains below, a highly defensible position. Yet, like all great civilizations of the past, the Mycenaeans fell into decline and were eventually crushed during a Dorian invasion from the north. The roots of the Mycenaean culture can be traced to Crete, the southernmost island in Greece. Located in the Mediterranean Sea, Crete has been at the center of geographical controversy for centuries, due in part to its proximity to Turkey and northern Africa. Its location is still considered highly strategic. Crete's location made it the perfect center for Europe's oldest known civilization. The Minoan culture, under the leadership of King Minos, surrounded the beautiful palace of Knossos. Even today, the ruins of Knossos are among the world's most exquisite remnants of the past. The highly advanced Minoan civilization thrived on the island of Crete from roughly 2000 BC to 1400 BC, at a time when the rest of Europe was still considered barbaric. From Knossos, they ruled a maritime empire that included the Peloponnese Peninsula as well as parts of Sicily and the Cyclades. Their reign included the first organized naval fleet in recorded history. Visitors, especially Europeans, flock in great numbers to the Palace of Knossos. It was rediscovered by the British archaeologist Arthur Evans in the late 1800s. Evans and his crew unearthed, and in some cases reconstructed, much of Knossos, including the magnificent South Propylaeum, the unique horns of consecration, and the exquisite throne room. This room houses the oldest throne in all of Europe. A restored light well on the west wing of the palace includes copies of frescoes, which were found in the House of the Frescoes. Separating Greek myth from reality is difficult, but the Minoan Empire is believed to have been created and ruled by King Minos. This wouldn't be unusual, except Minos is the legendary son of the Greek god Zeus. No one seems sure when, or even if, Minos actually lived. But there's no doubt the Minoan culture existed, and it remains one of the grandest and most brilliant civilizations of all time. Though the Minoan culture declined for many reasons, it was a volcanic eruption on the island of Santorini in 1450 BC that precipitated the devastating earthquakes and tidal waves that buried Knossos. In addition to Knossos, Crete is known for its warm climate and scenic beauty. Though much of the island is dry and rocky, there are also sweeping vineyards across the central highlands. Numerous villages are scattered across the large island, including the home of renowned Greek writer Nikos Kazantzakis. But Crete is first and foremost a vacation island, perhaps best exemplified by the beautiful Alunda Mare Resort Hotel, with its numerous bungalows and private swimming pools. As the southernmost island, Crete is also a good jumping-off point for exploring other islands. Its proximity to Santorini, though unfortunate for the Minoans, is a godsend for island hoppers. Many travelers use one of the numerous ferry boats, but Olympic Airways provides flights daily among the islands and mainland. Santorini, or Thera as the ancients called the island, is perhaps the most picturesque of all Greek islands in the Aegean. The island is enchanting. with breathtaking views, terrific black sand beaches, and an asymmetrical mix of whitewashed houses with contrasting blue and green shutters and doors and faded pastels. Along with the charming architecture, Santorini is a tranquil paradise, known for solitude and a peculiar peacefulness. Of all the islands, visitors come here with a seemingly quieter edge, looking for the famous Greek sun, sand, and surf, but also for the romance and mystery Santorini's landscape and people have to offer. Santorini owes much of its uniqueness to its volcanic past. The eruption here in 1450 BC may have destroyed much of Crete, but it also created a strange, often surreal landscape. In fact, many archaeologists believe that the eruption also destroyed the mythical city of Atlantis. Though the mystery continues, recent excavations at Aegean do reveal a highly civilized past on the island. The people who live here now, like their ancestors, learned to rely on fishing, though tourism provides significant livelihood. The fishermen's homes of the past were built directly into the mountainsides as small caves. It provided protection from the elements, insulation in both summer and winter. Today, many of the caves are being restored and turned into homes, restaurants, and luxury villas like Perivolos. While Santorini embodies the definition of quiet escape, the island of Mykonos provides the playful opposite. Like Santorini, Mykonos is part of the Aegean Sea, in an island chain known as the Cyclades. Of course, Mykonos is lined with beaches and the cubist architecture indigenous to the Aegean. But what makes it a hit is the lifestyle of the island. The central village of Mykonos is non-stop fun. A flurry of pedestrians wind their way through the maze of streets, which in most places are no wider than a sidewalk. It's easy to get lost, though part of the adventure is discovering the tiny courtyards, flower-filled stairways, and odd buildings that line the walks.
Mykonos, like Santorini, hasn't been spoiled by tourism. It has beautiful architecture, and certain colors dominate what you see. It isn't just one color, but certain colors, like the colors of the sea, dominate the houses and the landscape, and it gives the islands a certain beauty, a distinctive beauty.
The windmills of Mykonos are the most recognizable of landmarks. They line the harbor with their splendor as a picturesque beacon to incoming boats. The harbor itself borders quite literally on the village of Mykonos, its buildings within inches of the water's edge. Both pleasure ships and local Greek fishermen make it a routinely colorful landing. Many islands cater to the sun worshippers that flock to Greece in the summer months. But the Isle of Skiathos is one of the blossoming newcomers, known as the true getaway. Skiathos is also located in the Aegean, but is about 200 kilometers north of Mykonos in a more temperate climate. Skiathos is a densely wooded island known for its incredibly beautiful white sand beaches and deep blue waters. Part of the charm of Skiathos is the lack of extensive development. Of course, there are hotels and villas, but Skiathos is small enough to be able to enjoy interaction with the Greek locals. Skiathos also boasts one of the most beautiful harbors in all of Greece. The hillside houses frame a quiet, lazy cove lined with pleasure boats and outdoor cafes. Skiathos, like much of Greece, provides an excellent array of local restaurants and cafes, including many of extremely high quality and reasonable prices. Sampling the food is one of the highlights of any visit to Greece.
The Greek cuisine is very good. It's not as heavy as people think, and the olive oil is very healthy.
The cuisine is fantastic in Greece, and Greeks spend a lot of time eating. Basically, eating Greek food is a piece of our life.
I like Greek food very much. We have greens, zucchini. I don't like a lot of meat. Meat has cholesterol.
The dishes have become famous worldwide. Pasticcio, moussaka, souvlaki, fresh ocean fish, tzatziki, Greek salad with feta cheese. And nowhere are the entrees prepared better than on the islands. Far to the north and west of the mainland of Greece is one of the most famous of all Greek islands, Corfu, with its remarkable hodgepodge of histories and traditions, including Greek, French, British, and especially Italian. It is the northernmost of Greek islands and is considered part of the Ionian island chain, located in the Ionian Sea. However, Corfu is distinctly different from other Ionian islands in that it was never ruled by the Ottoman Empire of Turkey. It was, however, placed under Venetian protection in 1386, and Italian remained the official language until 1851. Because of its safe port and proximity to the rest of Europe, Corfu is often the first or only island visit for many who come to Greece. But Corfu's uniqueness is in how different it is from the rest of the country. The Venetian influence is obvious throughout the main city. The narrow streets and archways bring to mind images of Venice or Florence. The beautiful old buildings with colorful shutters and doorways seem far from the Greek tradition, instead conjuring up the laid-back feeling of a steamy Italian afternoon. The people, however, are decidedly Greek, and among the friendliest in the land. The main city offers picturesque architecture along with shopping and a wide variety of outdoor cafes. The Esplanade is a favorite meeting place for local Greeks on warm summer nights. The Esplanade is located in the center of the old town, adjacent to the former royal palace and directly across the street from the old fortress. Although the fortress has played its role in defending the island over the years, it did little to prevent an Italian air attack in World War II. Today, the fortress is perhaps the best place in Corfu for a view of the city's rooftops and steeples. A few kilometers to the south of the fortress is Canoni, one of Europe's most photographed landmarks. A miniature breakwater leads through the shallow waters to the equally tiny convent of La Herna. Beyond Canoni is the old chapel on Ponticonisi, the Mouse Island. Both Canoni and the seaport are terrific spots to view the peaceful island sunsets in spring and summer. No visit to Greece is complete without a stop at Delphi, located in the southern mainland, about 150 kilometers west of Athens along the Sacred Way. The little mountain village rests in the shadows of the powerful Mount Parnassos on a precarious ledge above the gorge of Pleiestos. The southerly view includes the Bay of Aegean, as it opens up to one of the largest olive groves in all of Greece. The single main street of the village is lined with pensions, shops, and tavernas, frequented by a colorful mixture of locals and tourists. But Delphi is known for myth, spirit, and tradition, and it rivals the Acropolis of Athens in its historical relevance. The ruins of Delphi blend so neatly into the gray-brown mountainside that it's difficult at first to imagine the once great spiritual headquarters that stood this ground. The exact age of Delphi isn't known, but the golden era of Delphi ran from roughly 600 to 400 BC. During that time, it served as a diplomatic, cultural, and athletic center. History is scrawled into the foundations and toppled columns along the arduous climb through the steep remains. Above the cleansing waters of the Castilian Spring and the mysterious ruin of Tholos rises the powerful sanctuary of Apollo. The sanctuary is like a terraced garden of stone, a seemingly organized mass of walls and partial columns, culminating with the stunning treasury of the Athenians. The treasury and its Doric columns were rebuilt in 1904 by the French with money provided by the city of Athens. The restoration was done almost entirely with the original blocks of stone and marble found on this spot. Along the final walk of the Sacred Way is the predominant structure in Delphi, the Temple of Apollo. The eastern facade of the temple is partially restored with columns reminiscent of the Parthenon. Above the Temple of Apollo is the well-preserved outdoor theater. Dramatic and athletic contests called the Pythian Games were held at the theater and adjoining 7,000-seat stadium. The games were held every 4 years and were considered as important as the Olympic Games. From this breathtaking vantage point, it's easy to imagine why Delphi was known as the navel of the earth. It is said that Zeus released 2 eagles to fly in opposite directions, and they met at Delphi. their meeting represented by a conical stone that was later excavated from the Temple of Apollo and now resides in the museum. But perhaps Greece itself is the navel of Mother Earth, for nowhere is there a more mysterious and exciting convergence of myth, spirit, and reality. The landscape, the ruins, the people. Greece has much to offer the adventurous wayfarer.
The Greek is the type of person who welcomes everybody.
Greek people are very open-hearted, very friendly, and a very compassionate people. Oh yes, Greece is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful nation.
Greece will always be a good place. It can never lose its beauty. It's so beautiful.
From the volcanic beaches of Santorini to the towering monasteries of Meteora, from the picturesque windmills of Myokonos to the triumphant glories of Olympia, from the sun-drenched ruins of Knossos to the majesty of the Acropolis. Greece is the playground of the gods.
Whether you're traveling in the United States or abroad, for business or pleasure, nobody gives you more for your money than Hertz. That's why America made us #1. That's why we're America's Wheels. For reservations, call your travel agent or Hertz at 1-800-654-3131.
What would you call an airline that flies to over 150 destinations in 18 countries, on 4 continents, over 2 oceans, including over 125 cities just in the U.S.? You'd probably call it something like Trans World Airlines, if that name weren't already taken. Today's TWA, find out how good we really are.
When planning your next visit to Greece, be sure to include Capsis hotels with locations in Athens, Salonika, Crete, and Rhodes. Capsis is the first name in hotels in Greece. Each Capsis hotel can satisfy your request for lodging, from simple to extravagant oceanside suites and bungalows. Work out in Capsis Health Studio, relax by the pool, or swim in the Mediterranean. Then dine on traditional Greek fare. Call today for information and reservations at 1-617-325-1617.
International Video Network brings you the greatest adventures in video entertainment. Award-winning documentaries from Reader's Digest, exploring the masterworks of man and nature. Travel planning videos from Fodors, revealing looks at the people, places, and cultures of the world. Rand McNally Video Expeditions, taking you to some of the most remote and dangerous places on Earth. Rand McNally Video Travelers, whirlwind tours you can enjoy from the comfort of your living room. Super Cities, celebrating the best-loved cities of the world. And Video Visits, whisking you away to exotic, romantic, and popular destinations. International Video Network. Great adventures in video. See your local video retailer or call International Video Network at 1-800-669-4486, extension 850 for your free catalog, featuring more than 250 travel, documentary, and special interest videos.